Our God is still on his throne and ruling the affairs of man. Even as he does not change, his truths have not changed. Thankfully, God still has a people which proclaim that old-time religion, setting forth his sovereignty, and the old paths of truth where we can find rest for our souls. Welcome to Word of Sovereign Grace, a ministry of Paradise Primitive Baptist Church in Arlington, Texas. Get your Bible, call your friends, and sit back as we open the King James Scriptures to explore the glorious Word of Sovereign Grace. Here's this week's message.
I think it'd be proper that I omitted all the preliminaries, get down to business. I knew for weeks that I was coming here, and I kept saying, well, when the time's going to preach, I'll probably be ready, but I'm still not. I feel like really I'm probably in worse shape than I was before I left home. But you who know me will not be surprised. Never did try to put on a big front or a big show. I tell people I'm just plain vanilla. If you don't like that, why, you're really in for a surprise tonight. The 9th chapter of Proverbs, and this is not my text, but he said, wisdom has built her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars. She has killed her beasts. She has mingled her wine. She has furnished her tables. She has sent forth her maidens. She cries upon the highest places of the city. I want you to remember this. Whosoever is simple, let him turn in hither. Whosoever is simple. I believe, and I have believed for a long time, that God's people are a simple people and they are a plain people. I remember many years ago when I pastored Mohawk Church here in Dallas, we had Elder Gene Thomas was on a preaching tour and from Alabama. Somehow or another they took the wrong turn on the freeway and got lost like they never found the church. In fact, they were a little late, but when he got in the pulpit, his text was, teach me thy ways, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path. So the Lord's people are a plain people, and we ask to be led in a plain path. I have a good subject tonight, and I hope the Lord will bless me to use it. In the Roman letter, chapter 5, and this is not my text either, but I want to lay a little groundwork here. For by one man's disobedience, for by one man's disobedience, he says, many were made sinners. Made sinners. So as by the obedience of one, many were made righteous. And that word, many, is a descriptive term, teaches the doctrine of representation. For by one man's disobedience, the one man Adam, it said that many were made sinners. We as old Baptists, and I think rightly so, believe in the doctrine of total depravity. In fact, I think all churches believe that. If they don't believe that, then they need to call in their missionaries from the far corners of the earth. That all people are sinners and lost in the sight of the Lord. So as by the obedience of one. Now, the disobedience in Adam, the whole human family, and I use the word whole, was plunged under the law of sin and death. They were all dead. I heard a preacher preach one time years ago, I believe one of the worst sermons I ever heard in no Baptist church, talking about the parable of the Good Samaritan and about the man that left half dead. And he said that was the shape that we was in. But I'll tell you what, we wasn't left half dead. We was totally dead. Adam was our federal head representative, and it plunged the whole human family under the law of sin and death. Now then, for as by the obedience of one, how many were made righteous? Was the whole human family made righteous? No. Those that Jesus Christ represents, that grand doctrine of election that we love so well. And I want to read a few verses of Scripture here in the Galatian letter, and I want to pull out three things out of this and talk about it very briefly. Beginning in verse 1 in the Galatian letter, in chapter 4, Paul said, "Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, though he be Lord of all, but is under tutors and governors until the appointed time of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. And because ye are sons, God hath sent forth the Spirit of his Son into your heart, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of God." I want to point three things out of this and talk about it for a few minutes here this evening. In verse 3 here, the Apostle Paul lays down the fact that we are slaves to sin. A lot of people don't like that today. But I can tell you this, my friend, that a dead alien sinner is not even conscious of the fact that he's a sinner. I hear this said many times in reference to what we as old Baptists believe about election. And they say that election represents a certain number of people, but they'll bring up a character over here that tears is streaming down his face and his heart is aching to go to heaven. That there's never been such a character. I can tell you tonight that if a person wants to go to heaven, my friend, it's because as he has been born again of God's divine Spirit, he has the new life in him. Slaves to sin. Like the parable in the book of Luke. This woman had 10 pieces of silver and she lost a piece of the silver. And I'll tell you tonight that that piece of silver, my friend, was lost. But it wasn't sensitive of the fact that it was lost. But I'll tell you that it had an owner. And an owner claimed it. We that are slaves to sin. I can tell you this, that I can remember back on my own life, and it's a painful experience. To look back down the road to which we've come and seen how wretched and undone we were. We see what we were, my friend, by nature. And we see what we are by divine sovereign, irresistible grace of God. I can remember back when I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I was serving some time in it. I've told this 1,000 times. And I'll tell you when I'm not wearing out. I didn't know what was wrong. But I knew that something was wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. For the first time in my life, I felt to be a sinner in the sight of the Lord, and I felt to be wretched and none. And I want to tell you what, that people experience the same thing today in 1988. They just don't like to talk about it. That's what the trouble is. Slaves to sin. And I'll tell you what, for years I didn't know that I was a sinner. And I asked you the question tonight, how did I know that I was a sinner? What happened to me that caused me to feel the dread condemnation, my friend? And I made vows before the God of heaven to do better. And I think I did make some improvement for a while. But I learned the lesson that salvation is by the grace of Almighty. I don't care how hard you work. You can't save yourself. There's no way. And I was like the man that built my house upon the sand. And it said the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon the house, and it said great was the fall. You know, I thought a pretty good house. Worked at it for a long time. And then all of a sudden, why, to see it swept away. And I said, here I am, right back where I started from. And I come to the conclusion that if I was ever going to live in heaven, it would be by the grace of God. It'll be because of what Christ did and not by what I have done. And I had a sainted mother back in Tennessee. And I've told this a lot of times too. And I wrote her a letter. And I thought about this a long time before I did. But it bothered me so much. You know, you got to talk to somebody. When you got trouble. And when you got problems, you got to talk to somebody about it. And my mother was the strongest old Baptist, and I'll tell you what, we need more of them like her today. I believe she was the strongest primitive Baptist that I've ever knew in my life. In fact, I've been this one time. I said, Mom, if we wouldn't be primitive Baptists, what would you like to see us be? She said, I'd just about as soon to see you dead. Well, there's not many people that strong about it, is it? I want to tell you tonight what we believe is true. And we don't have to take a back seat to anybody. And if it's true, we need to stand up like soldiers to Jesus Christ and advocate that truth. But I wrote my mother, and I told her how I felt. And she wrote me a letter back, and I believe that was the happiest woman that I ever read after. And then here was another problem. I said, here I am feeling so wretched and so undone. And she's so happy. I don't understand this. Well, I wrote another letter. And then finally, here come another answer. And I wrote it after she was glad because I was a sinner. And she wrote back and said, no, I'm glad that you can see yourself a sinner. The lesson in that, my friend, is that when a person can see themselves a sinner in the sight of the Lord, it's because they have passed from death unto life. It's because they have the new life of Jesus Christ. Slaves to sin. And I want to tell you tonight, there's not a way in the world you can get yourself out of this condition of your own free will. It is a work of the Lord. Slavery. Slaves to sin. Then in verse 6, he's talking about sonship. I want to tell you the grandest thing that will ever happen to you in this world is to be a son of God. And when we use the word son of God, we mean the genetic term. And I'll ask you tonight, how do you get into it? I can tell you how you get into it. You are born into it. It's something you can't work your way into. It's something that somebody else can't place you into. The only way you can be a son of God, you got to be born into it. Born of God divine spirit. One of my favorite chapters in the Bible is the 3rd chapter of the Gospel of John. And I read after that old sainted elder John Leland, who was a close friend of Thomas Jefferson. And they said he never preached a sermon that he didn't get into the 3rd chapter of John, emphasizing that necessity of the new birth. We were slaves to sin. Wasn't even aware of the fact that we were sinners. lost and ruined and undone, without hope and without Christ. I tell you what, there's not a manner worse of shape than for a person to be in. Nicodemus, he was a ruler of the Jews, educated man, a highly intelligent man. But he went to Christ for night. I ask you today, why did he go to Jesus for night? It was because he was ashamed, that's why. I'd have probably done the same thing. When I first felt to be a sinner in the sight of the Lord, I was almost ashamed to talk to anybody about it. But Nicodemus here said he went to Jesus by night. And he said, "Good master, what must I do to be saved?" Jesus says, "Marvel I say unto you, you must be born." I tell you what, you can't get around that. He said you must be born again. No way to get around it. Well, Nicodemus was thinking like a lot of people think today. He says, "Can I enter into my mother's womb the second time and be born?" Jesus said, "That which is flesh, and that which is the spirit is spirit. You must be born again." And then he tells him how it's done. Now, if you want to know how you're saved tonight, I'm going to tell you right now how it's done. Nicodemus, the wind bloweth where it listens. And I'm glad it's that way. And I'm glad tonight the responsibility, my friend, of preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm glad that that responsibility of saving souls is not our job here tonight. I remember talking to Elder LaSere Bradley Jr. one time. And he said in the early days of his ministry that they went out and handed out handbills all over the neighborhood. And he said they had hundreds of people there in the meeting. And they just joined, like 75 or 80. And they were going to baptize them, he said, on Sunday afternoon. But when the time come to baptize them, he said there's only about 3 or 4 of them even showed up. He said, if this is what it takes to populate heaven, we're going to miss the boat. I can tell you today, my friend, you must be born again. And he tells him how. He says, the wind, thou hearest the sound thereof. But you can't tell whether it cometh or whether it goeth. So is everybody that live in heaven must be born again. Then that's how the new life of Christ, and every one of them going to be born the same way. The wind bloweth where thou, listen, thou can hear the sound thereof. But Nicodemus, you can't tell where it comes from or whether it goes. So is everyone. Slavery, sonship. To be a son, my friend, of the Most High God. The grandest privilege in all the world. And I can tell you tonight that you that have sons know what a son is. You would take the shirt off of your back and give it to him. And I want to tell you what, that God will do it today for his people. Those that he loves. And those that he's bought with his precious blood. I remember when I was a child and happy, free, and no responsibility. Do you remember those days? When you made $5, you spent every bit of it, because you didn't have to worry about buying groceries. I'll tell you why we didn't worry. It's because we was our Father's responsibility, that's why. And I want to tell you what, we're God's responsibility today. He said the very hairs of your head are numbered. And not a sparrow falleth except he knoweth all about it. We are God's responsibility. We are the personal property of Jesus Christ. We are sons of God, my friend, made sons of God by the new birth. Not a better position for a person to be in here in this life than to be a son of God. I remember some years ago, and I came out of a family of 13 children. And I'm proud of every one of them. And I'm proud of them tonight. I wouldn't trade one of them for $1 million. I had a sister just younger than me, and somehow or another she was barren and they couldn't have any children. And they went to the doctor and they spent $1,000. And the doctor said, well, I don't know what the trouble is. But said, I can't find any reason why you shouldn't, but you have it. My brother-in-law, he wasn't raised no Baptist, but the Lord blessed him to see the truth. And they would kneel down beside the bed every night and hold hands. And they were praying for a couple of children to grace the home. But it went 13 years and they didn't have any. Prayed every night. Prayed every night, they said, for 13 years. Finally, they went back to the doctor and he said, well, I tell you what, you just don't look like you're going to have any. He said, I think you ought to adopt a couple of little boys if that's what you want. So they went to the adopting agency and filled out all the necessary papers and so forth. And of course, this took weeks and weeks, and finally the adopting agency said, now everything is ready as far as paperwork, all the legal terms and everything. And said, y'all go home and fill your car up with gas and said, have it ready. So we might call you just any night to go pick up a little bouncing boy somewhere just a day or two old. And they gassed the car up and they backed it in the garage, you know, so they could make a hasty getaway. And said and while they were waiting for the word from the adopting agency, she got sick one night. And she said, Billy, I've never been so sick in my life. In fact, the next day it wouldn't go away. And she went to the doctor, and you know what he told her? He said, you're going to have a baby. That's what you're going to have. And they did have a little Down syndrome boy. And a couple of years later, they had another one. And I want to tell you what, those are the happiest people in the world, and it makes God happy. No greater honor in all the world, my friend, to be a son of the living God. To share in all the blessings of God. There's nothing you withhold from you. Anything that you need, God will give it to you. I've often said this. We get our needs and our wants mixed up, don't we? We want a lot of things that we don't need. But don't ever pray for that which we want. We need to pray for that which we need. And God will see it to it that our every need is supplied. Slavery. Slaves to sin. Wretched. And ruined. And undone. And without Christ. And without hope. That's the shame we live in. But when you was born again. When you had the new life. In him, John 1 and 5. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. If you can see yourself a sinner, it's because you have the new life. It's because you pass from death unto life. Now, I want to tell another little story. Some of you have heard it. I've had so many good things happen to me, you just wouldn't believe it. I've seen the finger of God in my life so many times. I remember when I came back from overseas and I wanted to go to church. I can tell you tonight that when you're born again, when you have a new life and you take on the nature, do you know tonight that you have the nature of Christ? The reason you do because you're in possession of his Spirit. You've been born again. And you have the nature of Christ. And I wanted to go to church. Anybody tell me that they've been born again in the Spirit, they don't want to go to church, I doubt if they've ever been born again. But if a person has been born again in the Spirit, and they have a new life in Christ, you want to go to church. And I wanted to go so bad. And I was overseas, and finally when my time was up, I came back to California, and I began to look for a church, and I said, I never have seen anything like it. The old Baptists began to look for a church, and Why I couldn't find it, I had no idea. I turned up every city directory, every phone book, and came up with zero. Couldn't find a church nowhere. I said, I don't know why the old Baptists don't advertise or put it in the newspaper and do something. And I was stationed in a little town, Oxnard, California, near Fort Wayne, Indiana. I was in the Seabees. And they were bringing these bodies back from the Korean War. We were firing the 21 gun salute over these bodies that they had brought back. A real sad thing for a person to do. I think all this was preparation for the ministry, really. But anyway, we got on the little bus and we were going to have a funeral in a little town called Santa Paula, about 35 miles away. And this was on a Friday evening. And the bus driver had got out there in Santa Paula. Somehow or other he got lost, and he looked at his watch and he said, well, boys, he said, we'll probably miss this funeral. He said, I have no idea where the cemetery is. Said just lost. And that's all I can say. Well, I looked out the window and you know what I saw? There was a little church there. It said Primitive Baptist Church. When I got on Liberty the night, I went down there. And that's where I heard my first gospel sermon. Acts 26:8, and I'll never forget it. Paul told King Agrippa, he said, why should it be thought a thing incredible that God should raise the dead? That desire to go to church. The reason that I had a desire to go is because I had the new life and I was a son of God. And I had the nature of Christ and I wanted to do good. And I still want to today. The desire, my friend, to work and to labor in the thing of the Lord is just as strong today as it's ever been. I wish that I could stand in the pulpit with zeal and enthusiasm until the day that I die. And I want to tell you what, my friend, you have faith in Jesus Christ and faith in the fruit of the Spirit. It's faith to live by and faith to die by. I go to a church occasionally in Madisonville, Kentucky. Town of about 18,000, but they had a preacher there, Elder J.D. Shea. Had one of the strongest minds of any man that I ever knew. And he pastored that church for over 40 years. He was postmaster, county judge, city judge, held every office in the city for 50 years. And commanded a lot of respect. But when Elder Shane got up in years, he got out sick and he called a few of his close friends together and called his family there. He lay there in the bed, terminally ill, and the tears streamed down his face. And he told his children that I've been a lot of places. And so I've been so excited about going that I couldn't hardly wait. And the Lord knows how to pick a minister. God's ministers like to go. Me and my wife was so excited about coming out here. We'll be so tired when we get back, we can't walk. You give us a week, we're ready to go again. But Elder Shane said, I've been so excited about going places I just absolutely could hardly wait. He called his children over, but he says, now I'm fixing to go on a trip that's more excited than any of them, and died right there. I tell you what, grace, my friend, to live by, and grace to die by. Slavery, sonship, a son of God, by the new birth, born again of his divine Spirit. And then there's heirship. I want to tell you what, that the grave is not the end. A lot of people today would paint a sad picture to you that we work and labor all of our lives. And when we come to the end, they lay us in the grave and it's all over. I want to tell you tonight that it's just begun. I want to tell you this, that I look forward, my friend, to heaven. Now I'll tell you it's a real place. And I don't know how to explain it to you tonight like I should. And I don't have the vocabulary. and make it as strong as I need to make it. But I can tell you that God is real, and the Spirit of God is real, and heaven is a real place. It's not a fairy tale. It's a place that God has prepared for His saints. Those that He hath bought with His blood. You are not your own. You've been bought with a price. You know, a lot of times when somebody accumulates a lot of property, they generally appoint somebody as an executor of the will. They got 3 or 4 children, brothers and sisters. They stipulate in the will just to what they want each one of them to have. And it's the executor's job to see that every one of them gets what's coming to them. And I have no doubt tonight that I and you will share in heaven, my friend, with everything that God has prepared for us. Because Jesus Christ, the Son of God, He did not have to appoint executor of His will. When they crucified Him, my friend, nailed Him to the tree, speared Him in the side, took Him down and put Him in Joseph's tomb, He arose the 3rd day and became the executor of His own will. He's going to see to it that you get everything that's coming to you. And I want to tell you tonight, and I've said this before, when I leave this house of worship, I don't care if you ever remember my name. Let the name of Billy Walker die today. But let the name of Jesus Christ live on and on. Slavery, sonship, and heirship. God is coming back again. You can look forward to it. I can go out here in the cemetery and talk to those people. They don't hear anything I say. But I can tell you this, that there's going to be a day coming when Jesus Christ comes back again. He's going to say to the grave, give up. And they are going to answer His call. Now I want to tell you what the righteous dead is coming out of the grave. And also the wicked dead. I want to make that plain. I believe there's a place called heaven, and there's a place called hell. And Christ is going to call those out of the grave, the righteous dead and the wicked dead, and the righteous dead, my friend, will go to heaven and sing eternal redemption song as eternity rolls on. But the wicked dead, they'll go to that place that we don't even like to think about. May God bless you, is my prayer.
Word of Sovereign Grace, a ministry of Paradise Primitive Baptist Church in Arlington, Texas. Paradise Primitive Baptist Church is located at 5300 Mansfield Road in Arlington, Texas. Services begin at 10:30 each Sunday morning. Plan to come and worship with us. To find out more about Paradise Primitive Baptist Church, visit www.paradisepbc.org. Be sure to visit our website for articles, video, and audio sermons, as well as biblical answers to your questions. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join us again next week. May God richly bless you.